Hello everyone, this is WGM Sabina Foisor. Very excited to bring you another game from the strongest female tournament that took place in the United States in St. Louis, the Cairns Cup. You might have seen the previous video where I went over the winners win, and that was International Masters Carissa Yip's game. This time I want to showcase one of my favorite players in the country, International Master Alice Lee. Yes, I have favorite players too. Alice has had an amazing start of the competition, having 2 out of 2, and this is her round 2 win against former women's world champion Maria Muzichuk. Maria started with the move e4 and Alice responded with the Sicilian. Alice is a pretty good strategical player, but also I've noticed she's very good with assessing positions and calculation. She can calculate lines that you don't even think exist, and this is certainly one of those games where she outcalculated her opponent. No wonder she was leading this competition, really close to winning, only being stopped at the end with a draw by International Master Carissa Yip. So Alice finished with 5.5 and sold second in the competition. They went for the Rosolimo here, bishop e5, d6. A pretty popular line, I would say, these days. d6 castle, bishop d7, rook e1. Now, in this position, typically people end up playing the move knight f6. This is the most popular line. But in this particular game, Alice chose the move a6. Asking white a question, are you giving up your bishop or will you be retreating to f1? And Maria decided to give up the bishop. Bishop f1 is, I would say, one of the main lines in this position. But takes. And now white, despite the fact that they give up the bishop pair, want to open up the center and kind of take advantage of having more space. Pawn takes, knight takes, rook c8. Now the idea is, of course, if you choose to capture here, we may take with the rook in c6. Usually pawn takes is what happens, but in this case we can take with the rook as well. c4. So black chooses a Maroczy bind kind of setup. Black will be passive for a little bit of time, but eventually Alice will find her way to break through the position. You can't be passive for too long. Bishop d7. This is a typical move that saves the bishop. Bishop b2. Maybe queen d3 is an alternative too, by the way, to keep the knights protected, and this bishop could also be developed on that diagonal, but Maria chooses bishop b2 instead, knight f6, rook c1. Now it's very interesting because usually I see that rook being placed to d1, but in this case rook c1 was the choice. Here h3. And in this position with black, you have to figure out a plan because you're lacking space and you don't really have breakthroughs yet. b5 or d5 are not possible, and with the bishop in d7, ideas with knight d7, f5, well, are a bit too slow. So Alice found this very nice and typical prophylactic idea, the move rook to e8. If she were to play queen a5, which is a very typical move for these types of positions, you got to remember, black's typical response here is knight d5. You can't do this when there's no queen in d2 to try to trade. Knight d5 attacking this pawn. And if you capture, then white can choose to capture with this pawn, not with the c, with the e, and now this pawn is weak. So with the rook in e8, we'll have that covered, and maybe we'll consider to push the e pawn. So rook e8, rook c2, and now queen a5. Now, if in this situation you decide to go here, it's we actually have that pawn protected, right? So a4. White usually attempts to go a4, and that at some point they'll either go knight d2 or bishop a3 or something and push you back. Alice made a mistake that could have taken her in a difficult situation. I think usually black has to rush a bit here by playing, for example, the move e5, and then if the knight were to go back, then maybe she can break through with b5. Giving this pawn is fine, we just need to focus on getting this b5 in. This is typically why queen a5 is played, but she decided to go for this other idea with queen g5, but I was a bit worried when I saw this game because this queen could get captured. For example, if e5 were to be played, this was the engine's choice. And the problem is that now knight f3 will be placed, chase the queen away. You got to be careful. Maria played bishop c1 instead, missing the opportunity to create some dynamic play against the queen. Now queen h5, offering the queen trade. Of course, black is trying to avoid it because black has less space. Bishop c6 back. Now, with the queen in d3, these ideas are coming much better, and white made a dubious choice. It's of course important when you have these kinds of positions to improve as much as you can. At some point you might try to advance even further, but white, with the move that white played, which was b4, allowed black to have finally a breakthrough. Instead, bishop e3 probably, or bishop b2, a development of the bishop was necessary, and after knight here we can always, move the rook to d2. The d file is probably better for the rook anyways. The queen can go back to b1, switch over, be behind the rook, and maybe f3 needs to be played. After b4, knight d7, white pushed another pawn forward. Yes, she might be thinking, okay, this queen is going to be trapped, but this allowed a very nice move that Alice found, and that was the move a5, starting to break through the position, because we only have a queen on the first half, on our half of the board. We need to get some more pieces on that, fifth rank. After b5, now the knight has found its spot. Knight c5 with tempo. Queen d2 is probably a better choice, but Maria chose queen e3. The reason this move is not so great, well, you're staying for ideas with bishop d4 at some point, which is going to be a pin. You gotta be mindful when you're placing your pieces, especially when the f-pawn was pushed. And Alice found another brilliant idea here, the move e5. I love this move because it forces again some trades, it creates a weakness, and opens up everything. The bishop comes into play. In this position, f takes e5 was necessary, but Maria made a mistake. She played the move knight d to e2, which probably was the thinking process was that in case of a capture, the knight will take back, the knight will be better placed there, comes in with tempo, and eventually, white will place another knight in d5. Well, what Maria failed to realize in this position is that after knight d to e2, black had a brilliant move. Please pause the video and try to find Alice's brilliant continuation. I hope you were able to do so. Her brilliant move was bishop takes to e4. Now, the thing is that after knight takes e4, pawn takes, knight takes, she has this move queen f5, putting additional pressure. And guess what? Do you remember that rook in c2? Yep, it's not protected. And then we get to take the knight in e4, and black's position is perfectly fine. Maria made a huge blunder, which normally it would be a good move, but Alice outperformed, outcalculated her opponent. If you want to have a tactical exercise for yourself, pause the video, spend about 20 minutes, and try to find the best line for black in this position. You got it. It was e takes f4. Tempo. You have to take back. Bishop takes e2. What? Giving up the queen? Oh no, my queen, what's going on? Well, we have to trade, otherwise the rook will be captured with check, right? We have to trade, and now we have to capture the queen. But guess what? After this check, no matter where you move the king, it's going to allow a check queen or bishop e5 that wins the queen right back, and black remains with a much, much better endgame. King h2 was Maria's choice. Of course, like I said, king f2, knight d3 would have been played, and it's game over. So king h2, bishop e5. Maria found this in-between check, which, puts the king in the corner in a way to avoid more loss of material. But look at this position. Black is up a pawn and an exchange, and from here on, okay, black has to be careful, but Alice didn't miss a chance to convert this. Knight c7, knight e4. Let's trade everything. No mate. Black sorry, white was probably thinking knight e8, bishop g7. Nope, not happening. Let's trade. f6. She chases white's pieces away and then step by step continues improving her position. King g8, trades, king f7. Sure, you can take that pawn, but guess what? These pieces are too far away. This pawn or this one, if I get to capture it, or these two pawns will be much more powerful. And black went on to win after just a few more moves. I just played out for you here. Don't forget to give it a thumbs up, follow US Chess on all the social media accounts, and don't forget to follow Alice for her future tournaments. Both Carissa and Alice will be competing in the Women's World Championship. So be sure to stay tuned for more videos for those tournaments. Thanks for watching.